If you don't know me, most of you probably do by now because I've probably got about the biggest mouth in the area. My name's Rob Johnson. Like I said, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Steve for helping pull everybody together. That was a big bonus. It's always been a vision to see this many good people come together, working hard for the same causes, because we are stronger together. And when you put that on there, I was just like, you nailed it, short and sweet, beautiful. Unfortunately, I'm not that short and I'm not that sweet. If it were up to me, nobody'd be here because my magnetic personality would just repel everybody. Just ask my wife, she'll agree. I'm not here today to be part of a social group, social club. That's not me. Frankly, I could give two buffalo chips about it. I stepped up because I saw a problem. A big problem within our own party. We have many Republicans throughout the nation conspiring with Democrats. It's that establishment that undermined President Trump. He was the elected leader of our party and our nation. I got real upset about it. I yelled, I screamed, shook my fist at the TV, got real mad. Didn't do any damn good because you know what? You know what the problem was? The problem was me. I was the problem. Okay? I was all talk, I was no action, I dropped my guard, I became complacent. I didn't do the hard work to vet candidates properly, I didn't pay attention to how they voted. I never held them accountable. I always thought somebody else was watching the store. And we are the party of personal responsibility. And I did not do my part. I apologize to every one of you. But I'm here today to hopefully, start changing that around. You see, we need regular events like this because we are in peril. Our country is in peril. Our state is in peril. You see, our way of life is in peril. Why are we in peril? Partly because our GOP is in crisis. Democrats vote as a bloc. Their agenda is to destroy our republic and replace it with Marxism.
Point blank.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Point blank.
Yeah. It should be a red flag, a bad idea every time Democrats start pushing a bill. Unfortunately, we have members that cross over. They support the Democrats. Our elected leaders should be working together to guard our freedoms. We can no longer trust all the members of our GOP to be the defenders of our liberties. You see these guys here? These guys guard my front door, day and night. Sergeant Honor and Sergeant Bravery. It's down there, it's written on there. They know what it's like to serve. There's plenty of people in here that have served or are serving. You know what it's like. You do your job, you stand there diligently, you go do what you have to do regardless of the cost, regardless of what pain it causes you. Let me ask y'all something. Why is it we always remember where we were during certain events, certain times of our life? Many of you remember when Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. I do. How about Miracle on Ice?
Yep.
Maybe even the first space shuttle launcher landing.
Yep.
Okay, sound familiar?
9/11.
Some of us remember when our boys were blown up in Beirut.
That's right.
Yep.
I remember that very clearly. I was still in the service at the time. I woke up that morning and I joined the military because of what the Iranians did to our embassy. That's what got me started. All right, how about this one? Where were you election night 2020?
Watching the numbers change.
So you can bear with me here. We remember events related to triumph and tragedy, right? Okay. Let's go here then. Maybe you remember the day SCOTUS overrode your voting rights and decided gay marriage in North Carolina. Do you remember that day? Surely you remember the day Obamacare was decided by SCOTUS that it's constitutional. Yeah, they could do that, right? How about this one? You must remember where you were when SCOTUS decided it was okay for every woman to kill her baby. You know what? You remember 9/11, right? That was horrible. Do you remember where you were when SCOTUS did that in '73? Yep. Guess what? Anniversary's coming up, the 22nd of this month. 49 years they decided that. And every day since, we have a Twin Towers level killing event of aborted babies every day. What do these three events have in common? How about constitutional crisis? They are each constitutional crisis by themselves, destroying the core values of Christian virtues underpinning the foundation of our constitutional republic. They are each an attack on the core values where a Republican appointed Chief Justice or Associate Justice broke ranks and voted with a destructive Democrat agenda.
God help me. That's true.
And it, oh, that's what I forgot. I knew I forgot something. Everybody have one of these?
Yeah.
Anybody need one?
Constitution.
Need one? Raise your hand.
Constitution.
Pocket Constitution.
Right here.
I have Democrats I work with, if you could give me some.
I forgot to bring it today. That's the one thing I forgot. I apologize, but I forgot to bring something else, and I'll explain in a minute.
A little clue, when you walk around in your district, when you start going and knocking on doors, bring some of these with you. Rob will help you get some. Talk about this. Bring it
Real
out.
simple. It's about 40 pages. It has the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and all 27 amendments as they were written. Okay? At home I have a book, 3,000 pages thick, the annotated Constitution. We've got two constitutions, people. Two. How many people in here call themselves a constitutionalist? Come on, let's see your hands. Raise your hands. Constitutionalist, right?
That's what they were trying to do.
Sorry, but that's not good enough. Don't you think Nancy Pelosi calls herself a constitutionalist? Because Nancy Pelosi follows that 3,000-page version of the Constitution that is so big they had to spend 3,000 pages to explain what this means to us. I'd like to see us start using the word originalist.
Okay.
The belief that the United States Constitution should be interpreted in the way that our original authors intended it. Not part of it. All of it. First Amendment protects all speech, not that just what you like. Protects the speech you don't like. Even if it offends you, it's still protected.
Even if it's on Twitter.
Yeah. Facebook and Twitter are the biggest offenders of that. Second Amendment. Shall not be infringed. How difficult is that to understand? Fourth Amendment. We just saw that. Secure in our houses, our papers, and our effects. You can't get it without a warrant. That includes the IRS, OSHA, EPA, and all 85 regulatory agencies that now have the ability to write laws, administer laws, and enforce laws.
Yeah, like mask your kids and stick needles in their arms.
Right. And passports.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Securing one's person means no injections.
Fifth and Sixth Amendment. Fifth and Sixth Amendment, each January 6er should at least have due process and habeas corpus applied to their case before any illegal alien does.
No question about it.
Catch and releases for fish.
And you don't hear Greg Murphy talk about it either, or Tom Tillis, or Richard Berman, who cares?
Ninth Amendment. People, all the people, have enumerated rights and rights that are not enumerated, not specifically listed in our Constitution, not specifically written in our Bill of Rights, because they can't even think of all the rights that we have, that we possess, that they should not be infringing on. On the other hand, the federal government, for the 10th Amendment, only has those enumerated rights that were specifically written in the Constitution. Why do they keep going elsewhere? Our founders believed in a decentralized and limited government. We should always be fighting for smaller government and less regulation.
Yep.
So what went wrong? Let's start.
Mail out
Big
votes.
ticks.
Let's start with our prince of progressivism.
Woodrow Wilson.
Well, I was going to say President Theodore Roosevelt, but yeah, 1937. The particular case is Helvering v. Davis, and the problem is the General Welfare Clause. Is the General Welfare Clause good enough to use to say the welfare system is constitutional? The Welfare Clause is one of two of the most abused clauses in our Constitution. The proponents say it is good. Madison, the father of our Constitution, said the whole structure of the Constitution, the whole design of our federal plan, was to create a system of enumerated powers and limited government. After all, if you give Congress the power to promote the general welfare, which could include anything and everything, it would be an unbounded power, which would totally eviscerate the notion of enumerated powers. Madison went further to say not only isn't the General Welfare Clause an extra power of Congress, it's actually a restriction on Congress. Here's how he thought it went. Article 1, Section 8. Congress has the power to do all these things that are listed in Article 1, Section 8. If anybody wants to read it.
The 18 enumerated powers.
And if they do those things, and only those things, in addition, the general welfare and not the welfare of what Madison called fractions, what we today would call special interests. The court looked at it and said roughly, Madison, you're wrong. Wrong? He's the one that wrote the Constitution. Madison, you're wrong. The Social Security system is perfectly constitutional, and it opened up the floodgates for the redistributive state. That was one case. What's the second one? (1942). Here we go again. We're running into this theme with President Roosevelt, right? Article 1, Section 8. Wickard v. Filburn, the Commerce Clause now. It's the other most abused clause in our Constitution. SCOTUS got it wrong, and the Roosevelt administration abused their power when suing Mr. Filburn. They decided, and I'll paraphrase this, if you hadn't been growing crops, you would have bought them. If you hadn't eaten everything you grew, you would have had some left over to sell. So by not buying and not selling crops on the interstate market, therefore, by not buying and not selling, you have influenced the supply and demand of crops on the interstate market. Therefore, we can regulate you.
What?
No lie. No lie. By not buying and not selling, you have influenced interstate commerce. So now we're going to regulate you. And today Congress regulates everything through the Commerce Department. They use cases just like this to justify it. Since this, the delegation doctrine has taken hold. You know what the delegation doctrine is? That's Congress's ability to create a new administration like the Social Security Department
The administrative law.
or the Department of Commerce and say, you go write your own laws and we'll back you up with whatever you write. That's the
And they're
delegation
not
doctrine.
elected. They're appointed.
Since it's created a wish list. New administrations that regulate every portion of our daily lives. They control what our children are taught in school. They control the mud puddle in your driveway. Over 85 federal agencies possess the power to legislate law, administrate law, and adjudicate it. Congress has delegated away their authority to sometimes lifelong bureaucrats.
Fauci.
Don't say
The
that.
richest federal
You know, fortunately, our founders did have a fix for it. It's Article 5. George Mason demanded it be put in the provision in Article 5 because he correctly forecast the situation we face today. He predicted that Washington, D.C. would violate its constitutional limits and the states would need to rein in the abuse of power in the federal government. Nearly 90% of all our Republican lawmakers in our General Assembly agree with this. They agree that we should be all encouraging a convention to propose amendments to fix our federal government, to restrict the size and scope of the federal government, to restrict how much they spend, and restrict how long they get a free ride on our dime. Excuse me.
And only those three things we would put forward, right? Correct?
Yeah. That's the only thing on the ticket. That's the only thing they can focus on.
They can't
Because
have
it's a
runaway
limited
convention.
application.
Can't have a runaway convention.
Ladies and gentlemen, the tradition of self-serving elected leaders needs to end. Senator Burr, we love him, don't we? He voted to impeach Trump, right?
Yeah.
Hot garbage.
Well, he got censured, and he's not going to run again. I understand Senator Tillis isn't going to run either. He has a cancer diagnosis or something.
Bye.
What's that?
Bye.
But, bye.
Bye.
But, bye.
I have a question.
Yes,
What exactly does a censor do? Like if we censure somebody?
we'll get to that.
Okay.
We will get to that. And right now, to our chagrin, we have a problem. Congressman Murphy has been voting with Democrats. He recently voted for this vaccine tracking database and red flag gun laws for our military.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, I am totally serious. He thinks he's doing a great job. Why is it 3 out of 3 of our federally elected officials, they go to Washington and forget why we put them there? Why do they forget about us? Why do they disregard our will?
Buddy, because they want to be rich.
I guess the best question is, what are you going to do about it? Who's going to hold the politicians accountable? We have to. They can only do what we allow them to do. If we allow them to get away with doing bad things, they will continue to do bad things. And now is a time that we need no mercy. We've lost way too much already. We've got to stand up and say enough is enough. We've got to scream. We got to fight. We got to shout. This is it. It's time to take it to the grassroots, take it to the streets, spread the word. We got to get busy. I want to read you something. This afternoon, I was informed by our county GOP legislation committee. There's a letter here. First, let me read you something else. Somehow I got famous over this past weekend. See if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. Somehow I got famous this past weekend. I got a phone call from somebody. On a Sunday afternoon, a congressman is calling me at home, leaving me a voicemail. 30 minutes later, I get an email. I get another email today. Like, wow, why am I so important all of a sudden? What the heck is going on? This is what it says. The confusion surrounding HR 550 is understandable. Because I want to be fair. I want you to know what this guy says. I want to be fair. I want you to know what this guy says. Everybody probably got this email today,
That's a fact.
if not yesterday. It's been out.
Let me just say, Ted Budd and the rest of the Republicans, they must be confused too,
Why?
right? Well, they voted against it.
They voted against it. The confusion surrounding HR, by the way, this is from Congressman Greg Murphy. The confusion surrounding HR 550 is understandable. It comes from a fundamental misunderstanding about what the bill actually does. Below is an excellent factual summary. There has been a great deal of confusion surrounding 550 due to misinformation. To be clear, HR 550 does not create a new database. Tracking vaccinated individuals has nothing to do with the vaccine mandates. A few members of Congress who misunderstood the bill were very vocal in their opposition again, without understanding what the bill does. Wait a minute. So 130 Republicans in Congress that voted no for this bill don't know what the hell they're talking about.
That's what he
But
said.
Meg Murphy does.
But this guy does.
He spouted that bull crap on radio too, Henry
Yes,
Hitchens.
that's
You know what he's saying?
right.
Let me
Henry
go
Hitchens
forward.
doesn't do anything.
Henry Hitton
That's what
always
he's trying to tell you.
There you go.
and talk to us.
Yeah, Russell.
Fortunately, this bill does nothing of the sort. The Republican-led bill, actually it was not Republican-led. There was a Republican sponsor on there from Indiana. I hope like hell he gets fired. I mean, this was a Democrat-run bill. 214 Democrats voted, yeah! How many Republicans? 80. And it's a shame because they needed 290 votes to get it passed, and they got 294.
That's 8 too many.
550 would provide funds for Department of Health and Human Services in order to expand and improve immunization information systems administered by state and local governments. It goes on. I have it here. North Carolina, blah, 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 percent population vaccinated. Immunization information into, oh, there it goes. It puts the immunization information into one reliable source. One
That sounds
reliable
like a
source
database
in the
to me.
hands of our government? A reliable source?
Yeah, who's the arbiter of reliable sources?
Look. If you really want to read this, anybody, I'll let you read it.
Just check your email.
Check your emails. There you go.